everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So today I've got another conspiracy theory for you. Today I'll be talking about the life, death and conspiracy of Princess Diana, and I'm sure most of you watching this you'll know who she is, but do you know like the full story? Because I know that I didn't, and I'm into this sort of stuff, so I can guarantee I will tell you some stuff that you won't even know. I'm just going to jump straight on into it. Diana Spencer was born on the 1st of July 1961 at Park House, which was in Sandringham in Norfolk. She was the 4th of 5 children, so they had a pretty big family, but they were very well off. Her family were actually hoping for a boy, so when she was born she didn't have a name for a week. Diana's grandmothers were all ladies in waiting for the royal family, so even before she was born she was like kind of in with the royal family. So it was inevitable that at some point she would connect with one of them. And the house neighbouring their house was where the royals would sometimes stay on their holidays, so she would end up playing with the princes. She was homeschooled by her governess for a while, and all the schools she attended were either like private schools or all-girl boarding schools, and this is typical for a wealthy family in the UK. And when Diana was just 7 years old, her parents divorced, and this had a major impact on her. She lived with her mother, but the year they got divorced went to visit her father for Christmas, and he refused to let her go back home, and the rest of the children as well. And there was a custody battle and he won it, so she was to live with her father and her new stepmother. Diana did not get on with her stepmother at all and said that she was just a vile and she was a bully. Her mother also started a new relationship, so on top of this she had a new stepfather too. And even though she said her childhood was just unhappy and unstable, she was still an outstanding member of her community. Like, she won an award for it and everything. She just wanted to make an impact and help people. That's what she wanted to do with her life. She was also very musical and very athletic, and she could play the piano, she did swimming, she dived, she also did tap dance. Her final formal education was at finishing school in Switzerland, and she returned home after one term, and it was then she moved out of home formally and moved into her mother's flat with 2 friends. And at this point she just started taking low income jobs. She was a dance instructor for a while until she had a ski accident which made her take 3 months off. She also took cooking classes. She helped out in a nursery at some point as an assistant. She also did some cleaning for her sister and her friends. So I was quite shocked when I read this, because I presumed that she would just use her family money to get by and not take these jobs, but clearly she had a good work ethic. At one point she was even a nanny for this American family living in London, and you could just tell that she loved children. She had her job in the nursery, she was a nanny, you could tell she just loved children and children loved her. Her 18th birthday present, her mother bought her own flat in London, and this is where she lived until the 25th of February 1981. And this is when she actually got engaged to Prince Charles, and it was quite a whirlwind relationship. They met when she was only 16 at a family event, and he was actually dating her older sister, Lady Sarah, at the time. In the summer of 1980, she watched him play polo, and this was when he started thinking of her as a good contender for, him. Because this is kind of what the royal family is like, They can't really marry for love as much as marrying for names and for money. It's very rare that a member of the royal family would just go and marry some random Tom, Dick or Harry from down the street. And started to invite her out to family events and to just kind of socialise with his sort of crowd and to get to know each other as well. But it was a very, very quick relationship. He proposed to her on the 6th of February 1981, but it wasn't announced to the public officially until the 24th of February. And everyone loved Diana. She was just such a likeable person, everyone loved her. And Diana said that when he proposed they'd only met in person 13 times, which I find crazy. I get it, it's the royal family, but that's still crazy. It was kind of destined for disaster, if you ask me. Her engagement ring, obviously it's the royal family, so it was big. It was very similar to her mother. It was an 18-carat white gold with 14 solitaire diamonds and 12-carat blue oval sapphire, and it cost £30,000. 30,000. I couldn't even imagine that amount of money. Damn. And this ring is still in use. It was used by Kate Middleton back in 2010 when she was engaged to Prince William. After the engagement, obviously, she left her flat with her 3 flatmates. She left her job and she went to live in Clarence House for a bit before moving into Buckingham Palace before the wedding. And at first the Queen did approve of this relationship and gave them their blessing, you know, they had the royal family's go ahead, and she even gave Diana some jewellery as a wedding present. I had a plan for my eyeshadow and it hasn't gone right, and now it looks a hot mess. But we move. She made her first public appearance after the engagement at a charity ball, and that was in March 1981. And here she met the Princess of Monaco, Grace Kelly. I had no idea Grace Kelly was the Princess of Monaco, I just want to say that. I had no idea, I just thought she was like a movie star, which she was until she got married to the Prince of Monaco. And in the days leading up to their wedding, there was a few different events at Buckingham Palace, you know, like there was a gala ball, there was some dinner parties, just to kind of celebrate it, and it was such a big event, the wedding was. Like, it was called the wedding of the century. They got married at St Paul's Cathedral on the 29th of July 1981, and this wedding cost between 70 and 100 million pounds, which is insane. And a lot of that was for security, like they needed a lot of security for this. It was just a fairy tale wedding. The public felt even more in love with her seeing her on a wedding day in her beautiful dress. She's absolutely stunning. And the wedding was a televised event, and it was put all over the world. And over 75 million people watched the wedding. And 500,000 people lined the streets to get a glimpse of the carriage when it went past with her in. There were street parties all over the UK, which honestly I wish we had this sort of community now. Like, oh, I'd love to have a street party. I remember when Kate Middleton got married, it was kind of like that, but it wasn't with Meghan Markle. I feel like they didn't make as big of a deal as they did with, you know, William and Kate, as they did with Meghan and Harry, which maybe it's to do with Meghan's background and the tone of her skin, but that's a whole topic for another video. Not slighting the royal family, but if you look into it, you can see there's a clear difference between how they, you know, go about talking about Meghan compared to how to talk about Kate. Her dress was insane. The trail of it was 25 metres, and in today's money her dress would have cost £35,000. And I thought this was really cute, but on the bottom of her shoes that she was wearing were the initial C and D, obviously for Charles and Diana. I just thought that was really cute, because who's going to see that, you know? No one. It was mainly for her. And the family were all transported up in carriages, and Diana and her father were transported up in their own carriage, and there was such a tight squeeze because of her dress, which I found quite funny. I found this insane. It took 3.5 minutes for her to walk up the aisle. That's how like big this like place was. And some notes about the actual wedding. So she got his name wrong, which I wouldn't have even noticed, but she called him Philip Charles Arthur George instead of Charles Philip Arthur George. And at the couple's request, they removed the obey part out of the wedding vows, which a lot of people picked up on. I'm kind of just like, And it's not normal for the royal family to like mess with the wedding vows, you know. And upon marriage, she gained her title of the Princess of Wales. Just a few months later, in November of that same year, she announced she was pregnant, and the country, honestly, they were overjoyed. They just loved her. She was the people's princess. A few months after she announced the pregnancy, when she was just 12 weeks along, she actually had an accident where she fell down the stairs, and they immediately got a gynecologist out to check her over, and they said the baby was fine, just had some bruising. And she later said that she threw herself down these stairs on purpose because she was feeling inadequate. The following month, the media posted a picture of her in a bikini, and it was when she was pregnant, and the Queen called it the blackest day in British journalism history, just because a member of the royal family is seen in a bikini. Which, I mean, okay, Elizabeth, calm down, hun. Like, it's not that deep. Literally not that deep. I'm sure you wore a bikini many times in your life. And on the 21st of June 1982, she gave birth to Prince William. A very controversial decision of hers was she was going on a tour the following month of New Zealand and Australia, and she actually took him with her. And a lot of people praise this, but it's not normal for the royal family to do that. Her second son, Prince Harry, was born 2 years later. And Diana wanted so much to do with her children, way more than what normal royals did. She wanted to choose their schools, choose what they wear. She sorted out like their schedules, and she arranged her schedule around there. She wanted to pick them up from school. She decided all the shots for her children, which wasn't normal in the royal family, but she wanted to be a big part of their lives. Now, as a princess, she was expected to go and visit a lot of different places, you know, like primary schools, hospitals, things like that, as like part of her duties, but she took this above and beyond. She was involved in so many charities. I'm not even going to try and list them all, like, it's insane. Honestly, she was well known for her charity work. This is why the public loved her, because she used her title to try and make a difference and to try and help people who needed it. She was involved in so many charities to do with like AIDS, leprosy, animal protection. She wanted to stop land mining, and normally the royal family stayed away from people who had AIDS, but Diana did not, and she would make physical contact with these people. When I say physical, I mean like handshakes and hugs. And at the time it was still unsure if AIDS could be spread this way, so that was so controversial, and the Queen literally said to her like, girl, choose something a little bit more like suitable, and Diana was like, nah fam. I'm sure that's exactly how they both said it as well. Diana honestly just really wanted to make a difference, and I'm not even going to try and list all the charities and stuff she was involved in, because I would be here all day. Like literally there's a Wikipedia page just for her charity work alone. She just wanted to make a difference and help people, and this is why the people loved her. Now, there was a 13-year age difference between her and Charles, and this started to show, and the marriage was not the best even from get-go. They both started to have affairs. Charles's affair was with his former girlfriend, who was Camilla, who we all know now is married to Charles. Diana, her first affair was with Major James Hewitt, who was her former riding instructor, but it's rumoured they both had many affairs with many different people. A lot of people thought that James was actually Harry's real father because they looked more alike, but both of them have like denied this, have all said no. And they didn't start the affair until 2 years after Harry was born, so it was unlikely. And stuff kicked off at Camilla's sister's birthday party in 1989. Diana went up to Camilla and asked her about the affair she was having with Charles. So they both knew, like everyone involved knew that they were like cheating and stuff. Now, the affair did not come out until 1992, and this was in a book that was written, and the author of the book, he spoke to Diana. He got a lot of information about her and like the affairs and her private life and her mental health as well, which was rapidly decreasing when she joined the royal family. The author of this book was Andrew Morton. The Queen and Prince Philip sat the couple down to just have a talk and try and sort out the marriage and rekindle, but it didn't work. Over the following years, lots of different like things were leaked to the public, so the public obviously knew at this point that like it wasn't going great. And the Prime Minister announced to the House of Commons their split in December 1992, though it wasn't official for a while. Like I said, they were both thought to be having affairs with multiple different people, and one of these people was called Tiggy. It was like the prince's personal assistant, and it said that Charles wanted to kill her off to get with Tiggy. At the end of 1995, Diana did an interview in which she spoke about her depression and her bulimia, which the public didn't know at this point, and how she'd hurt herself as well.
Eating disorders, whether it be anorexia or bulimia, show how an individual can turn the nourishment of the body into a painful attack on themselves. And they have, at their core, a far deeper problem than mere vanity.
And for the royals, that was it. They were like, we cannot have someone in our family who has these mental health issues. She's always been a problem with the work she was involved in, so they told them to get a divorce. The Queen sent them both letters giving them permission to get a divorce, so this is what they did. It was finalised at the end of August 1996, and she received 17 million as like a settlement, as well as £400,000 per year. Obviously she lost her title as Her Royal Highness, and she resigned from a lot of her charity work because she didn't kind of have the status she thought. After the divorce, she stayed in her like double flat, which was outside of Kensington Palace, and she did actually start dating someone. She started dating a British heart surgeon who was originally like from Pakistan, and no one approved of her dating a man of colour. Like her mother did not approve, the royal family didn't, and it said that this man was like the love of her life, but it didn't last very long, and they did split up 2 years after they started dating. And just a month after this split, she started dating Dodi. Now we all know Dodi, I'm pretty sure if you know about Diana, you know about Dodi. And again, Dodi, he was very, very rich. He was a film producer, his dad was an Egyptian billionaire, and he was a Muslim man, and again, no one really approved of her dating a Muslim man, but she didn't really care. She loved who she loved, bless her, and no one's going to tell her what she could and couldn't do. At the end of August 1997, they went on a trip and they were like in boats, and this trip ended in France. So it was the 30th of August 1997. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, I probably should have looked that up. Henry Paul, the head of security at the Ritz Hotel, he was like called in to get a decoy vehicle. So basically the paparazzi were going insane over Diana, they always had, and they would like stalk her and Dodi. And there was over 30 photographers outside the hotel they were staying. So he was told to get a decoy vehicle, so the vehicle would like leave the hotel and the paparazzi would follow it thinking Diana and Dodi were in there, when actually they were leaving via the rear entrance with another car. And in the car was Henry, who was driving, Dodi, Diana, and a man called Trevor, who was like their bodyguard. Now, something to note is none of them were wearing seatbelts, which was very odd for Diana. She always wore a seatbelt in her car. She was very like safety driven, but none of them were wearing seatbelts. And it was very late when they left, so it was about midnight when they were driving around, and now it's the 31st of August. And they went into a tunnel, and this tunnel was quite long, to be fair, and this was at 23 minutes past midnight. And the driver of the car, Henry, he lost control, and this was just devastating. He hit a right hand wall and it swerved over to the left and hit a column. The car was travelling about 65 miles per hour when the tunnel limit was 31, and everyone who was there said the paparazzi were behind them for the entire time pretty much. You know, they managed to find her, and the paparazzi obviously saw the crash happen, and they all went over, and some of them were trying to help Diana and the others get out. Others were taking pictures. I find that disgusting. So the police arrived about midnight and the ambulance arrived about 5 minutes later. The photographers were arrested for just standing and taking pictures of a car crash, and this kind of breaks my heart. But Diana, she had serious injuries, but she was still kind of alive and talking. And she was saying to the photographers who were like in her face taking photos, oh my god, and please go away. And Trevor, he was still like semi-conscious. He had like bad head injuries, but he managed to survive the crash. Dodi was pronounced dead at the scene, and the driver, Henry, he sadly like was pronounced dead when he was removed from the wreckage. Diana was removed from the car about 1 AM. She wasn't put in the ambulance until 18 minutes past 1. When she went into cardiac arrest. But the ambulance didn't actually leave the scene for another 20 minutes. And then it took so long to get to the hospital. Honestly, like, they got to the hospital about 2:05, even though the hospital was actually around the corner and there was going to be no traffic out and about, you know, it's the middle of the night. And sadly, she died at the hospital at 4 AM.
Reports from Paris that Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident, and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles.
From our very own Foreign Secretary Robin Cook, who's in the Far East at the moment, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
The world was in shock when the news got out. Diana was the people's princess and everyone loved her so much. The world was devastated by this. People were invited to St James's Palace to go and sign a condolence book. More than 1 million bouquets were left outside of Kensington Palace. And by the 10th of September, these were 5 foot deep. I'm 5'1", so like almost as tall as me. It was unclear if it would be a state funeral because she wasn't a part of the royal family anymore, but the royal family obviously got involved because this was Harry and William's mother. It took place Saturday the 6th of September, with the official ceremony beginning at Westminster Abbey and a final resting place in Andover. 2,000 people attended the service, and again it was filmed and broadcast all over the world. 2.5 billion people watched around the globe, which is like pretty high up in like you know, amount of people watching something. Obviously, the investigation started, and French authorities immediately blamed the driver and said that his blood alcohol level was way above the legal limit and he was drunk driving. There's also reports of another car being involved in the incident, and the French authorities believe this. They believe it was a white Fiat Uno. There's kind of evidence from some scratches on the car with this specific make, paint, but they never found the vehicle or the driver. Now, I'm gonna get into the conspiracies around her death now. And obviously you don't have to believe these. I feel like this is really controversial. Some people believe, some people don't. So if you don't, please don't come for me. I'm just sharing information that I found online. A lot of people think this wasn't just a car accident, that other people were involved and other people made it happen. Some people think the paparazzi made it happen on purpose by hounding her, and there was reportedly bright flashing lights of, you know, the cameras taking photos, and this apparently is what kind of put him off and made the crash happen. There was apparently a big blinding light right before he crashed. People at the scene said that it was too bright to be a camera flash. So it's very unsure, and they were driving so close to the car as well and just hounding her constantly. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the paparazzi did cause it. I'm not saying they did it on purpose, but they probably did play a big part. People think Henry was working with either the French or English government. Now, some people believe that he just wasn't drunk, and they swapped his results out with a suicide victim, and this is because there was lots of carbon monoxide found inside of his lungs and his body. But when the accident happened, he broke his neck and died immediately, so he wouldn't have taken any of the smoke in. So how has this carbon monoxide got in his system? People think that he wasn't drunk at all because he wasn't acting drunk on the night. No one saw him acting weird that day. His family stand by this. His family do not believe he would be drunk driving. And he wasn't actually meant to be working that night. He just returned to drive Diana. And a lot of people, and I believe this, think the car was tampered with because it was driving so fast. And Mercedes, the make of the car, refused to look at it, and it's thought they refused to look at it because they knew if any qualified person who knew about this car looked at it, they'd see that it had been tampered with. So the car was a Mercedes S280, and it was the only car available from a rental company. And it's actually found out later that this car was a stolen car, and it was found to be missing a microchip which helps control braking, speed, acceleration and the navigation. Her medical care could have been sabotaged, and I believe this as well. They took her to the hospital straight away. She could have survived. Now, French law is different. So in France they try and treat people at the scene before taking them to the hospital, whereas in the UK they just take them to hospital to get treatment. It took between an hour and 40 minutes to actually get to the hospital, and when they were driving, the ambulance was forced to stop 30 seconds before the hospital because the doctor said her condition was getting worse. Why stop it? You're almost at the hospital, dude. Some people think that in the ambulance they were trying to make her injuries worse to make sure that she died. And I'm not saying that's true, but I do think there's some dodginess with the medical stuff. And this is honestly so sketchy, but they embalmed her body pretty much straight away. Her body was still warm when they embalmed her, which meant that no autopsy could have been done, no post-mortem. And people think this is really dodgy, and I agree. This is literally against the law to do this in France. And I don't really believe this, but some people think that it was actually fake, and Diana faked it so she could get away from the paparazzi and the public eye to just live her life with Dodi without being bothered. The target could have actually been Dodi, you know, he had some business enemies, him and his father. Could have been him, and Diana was just caught in the crossfire. And this is one of the most popular theories, that the royal family did it. So Dodi, obviously he's a man of colour, and there are reports that him and Diana were going to get engaged. And if they got married, it would mean that two of the princes, Harry and William, would have a stepfather who was Muslim. And the royal family did not like this. The royal family were pretty racist, and still are. And they did not like the idea of her dating a Muslim man, and the Muslim man having anything to do with their children. And Dodi's father claimed that Diana was pregnant, and the royal family would not allow their princes to have a stepbrother or a half-brother who was of a different colour. Now, her friends didn't believe that she was pregnant. Her cycle had been regular. They used contraception. She hadn't mentioned anything, but we'll never know because they embalmed her body so fast that did they even do a pregnancy test? Well, if they did, they haven't told us. Dodi's father believes it was Prince Philip who orchestrated it. Diana herself had said she felt like the establishment wanted to kill her. So one of her close friends was her butler, Paul Burrell, and this is what a letter that she gave to him to keep safe read. I'm sitting here at my desk today in October, longing for someone to hug me and encourage me to keep strong and hold my head high. This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous. They're planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injury in order to make the plaque here for Charles tomorrow. The butler said she was always scared of Charles and like she would check all the rooms she was in to make sure they weren't wired. Like she was offered security by the royal family when they got divorced, but she turned it down because she knew that whatever she said would be reported back to them.
I don't think many people would want me to be Queen. Actually, when I say many people, I mean the establishment that I'm married into, because they've decided that I'm a non-starter.
After the accident, the tunnel was cleaned. Within hours, it was like people were allowed to drive through it. And I get they wanted to like get things up and running and open the tunnel up soon. But this wasn't a normal car accident. This was the car accident of a royal. So like people think they were trying to cover something up there and that the crime scene actually had something, but we'll never know. The MI6 and the MI5, these are like British secret services, but like in foreign countries. But they work for like Britain. So people who have worked for them have claimed that this was to do with them and that they were like told to kill Diana. And one member who like has retired had even said that previously he had been given plans to kill someone else and they're the exact same as how they killed Diana. They'd like got an informant following her and that they'd been like tracking her for years and years. The paparazzi, he was like part of this little group which was like people pretending to be paparazzi to get information. And he went to America to do a TV interview, but the second he landed, he got arrested and deported. And this is really dodgy, but there's CCTV everywhere. But yet this accident wasn't caught on CCTV. I think that this just wasn't a normal accident. This is a member of the royal family. They did not like her. She probably knew stuff about the family. I really do think that the family had some part in it. Not dissing the royal family. The royal family are watching this. Soz. But like, this is just so sad. Like, this woman could have done so much with her life. It meant that William and Harry grew up without a mother. Honestly, I really do think that something dodgy happened. But yeah, let me know what you think. Well, if the lighting keeps changing, it's because the sun keeps going in and out. But yeah, I was just going to do a video mainly focusing on the conspiracy. But Diana was so much more than her death and conspiracy. This woman had a life that she led. She was a wonderful, amazing woman. She really was the people's princess. And yeah, I also hate my makeup. But yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts. Because I do things differently. Because I don't go by a rule book. Because I lead from the heart, not the head.